Coming up, a manhunt ends for a triple shooting suspect.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. We begin with a developing story we've been following all day. After a nearly 24-hour manhunt, a Pulaski County man is now in custody after police say he killed his father and grandfather and tried to kill his grandmother. The Pulaski County Sheriff says 20-year-old Austin Prather killed his father, Ardith Trey Prather, his grandfather, Ardith Ray Prather, and badly injured his grandmother, Joanne, before running off. This happened overnight last night, and we learned tonight that Austin Prather was arrested in Indiana, and now deputies will try to answer some questions.
We don't have no idea what the motive was or reasoning was, so that's what we want to safely find him and try to figure it out.
Now again, Austin Prather was arrested in Indiana tonight. We are still working to find out when Prather will be brought back to Kentucky and when he will appear in court. Our other big story tonight, the forest fires. The Kentucky Division of Forestry, state and volunteer fire departments are still battling fires all across the region, with dozens of fires still active and spreading today. Kentucky Division of Forestry wildfire mitigation specialist Kesley Baker says we will need to receive a lot of rain for the fires to slow down, and crews are ready if they remain an issue.
We are prepared for it. I'm hesitant about making any estimates because wildfires are very sporadic and very unpredictable. But I believe with the resources coming in from out of state, we should be good and prepared.
As of earlier this afternoon, there were still 30 active fires across the state, with some covering more than 1,000 acres. Since last Friday, firefighters have been working to stop the spread of these fires. Earlier, firefighters were at a contained fire in Clay County, but were keeping tabs on it as strong wind gusts could allow the embers to spread the fire even more.
Yeah, it's been scary, but our main reason for being here was for my neighbors. I mean, we worried about them. There's several of them right here in this little area, and we wanted to make sure they were safe.
With many fires still burning, officials are encouraging folks not to burn anything outside, even if your county does not have a total burn ban in effect. Many counties have implemented one, and in fact, Letcher County declared a state of emergency today. You can find the complete list of burn bans on WYMT.com. And we've received some reports of new fires burning tonight. Here's some photos from one in Harlan County. These are from John Clem. This fire was happening earlier in the Crummies community between Kaywood and Cranks. We've also seen other fire pictures tonight out of Harlan and Perry counties.
Well, some good news with those fires. We are tracking some relief by Thursday, also Friday, as rain chances increase and those temperatures begin to decrease as we close out your work week. But temperatures on Wednesday were well above average. Some of us looking at up to record high temperatures. We tied the record for both London, also Jackson. 80 in Jackson, 79 for London, and check out Somerset, 84 degrees on this November afternoon. We were well above average and still warm for this time of year, up to 69 for Manchester, also London, still 70 for Jackson, 70 also Somerset. So once again, we are mild as we go into tonight. Up on the radar, we are dry as well as that high pressure continues to sit over the region. And as we go into tonight, more dry, also mild weather is on the way. Also tracking some more breezy weather, winds up to 15 to 20, possibly more than 20 miles per hour. And those lows back in the middle 60s as you wake up on Thursday. But again, those higher rain chances on the way for Thursday, also Friday. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. With the presidential election now less than a year away, 5 Republicans seeking the party's presidential nomination debated this evening in Miami, Florida. Going head-to-head were Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. CBS's Christian Benavidez has a recap.
5 candidates sparring at Wednesday night's Republican presidential debate focused part of the discussion on the war between Israel and Hamas.
I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers, Hamas.
I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border.
And the war in Ukraine.
Here is a freedom-loving, pro-American country that is fighting for its survival and its democracy. No, I don't think we should give them cash. I think we should give them the equipment and the ammunition to win.
Other pressing topics in the third GOP debate included immigration and border security.
I believe that we have sleeper terrorist cells in America. Thousands of people have come from Yemen, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. If we are going to deal with the national security emergency at our border, we have to do it now.
The economy.
This country is in trouble, and the elites that have put us here, they don't care about you. They don't care that you're having to grapple with higher grocery prices or have higher gas prices.
Making their best efforts to stand out, the Republican hopefuls made sure to slam President Biden and his first term in the White House.
But what we don't need is Biden falling all over himself to get back in the Iran deal.
At the same time, former President Donald Trump, who is leading in the polls, held a rally about 10 miles from here, but still commanded attention from his political rivals.
Anybody who's going to be spending the next year and a half of their life focusing on keeping themselves out of jail and courtrooms cannot lead this party or this country.
Trump's campaign has suggested the Republican National Committee should stop holding debates and instead focus on supporting the former president's efforts to regain the White House. Christian Benavidez, CBS News, Miami.
The Republican nomination process accelerates in January with the Iowa caucuses. Governor Andy Beshear is still celebrating his election victory. This morning, he talked to reporters about beginning another term as Kentucky's governor. He was joined by his wife and dog, Winnie, at the state capitol building. Beshear talked about the economy and working to build a better Kentucky. The governor says during the next 4 years, he hopes to limit division among Kentuckians.
And we are going to rebuild our communities that have been hit with historic flooding or tornadoes. We're going to keep that promise while I'm governor to repair every home and every life of every single individual that was impacted.
Governor Beshear's second inauguration day will be on Tuesday, December 12th. Several eastern Kentucky counties that have recently been red turned blue in at least the governor's race. Breathitt, Knott, Letcher, Perry, and Floyd counties were among those with the majority of votes going to Governor Andy Beshear yesterday. Breathitt County Judge Executive Jeff Noble says Beshear's flood response has played a big role, adding that even though folks might always agree with him, Beshear has always had a presence in the county.
Yeah, you know, everybody's got got things that I agree with and disagree with, and I mean that's just a human being. But people didn't just hear about Andy coming to Breathitt County. He actually came, and he actually brought help when he come every time. And you know, he's just a workaholic.
Noble says he's happy that folks were able to recognize Governor Beshear's work to help rebuild communities across the region. Former President Donald Trump addressed the governor's race today on Truth Social. He said in part, quote, Daniel Cameron lost because he couldn't alleviate the stench of Mitch McConnell. I told him early that's a big burden to overcome, end quote. Trump had endorsed Cameron in the race early on. Governor Beshear is not the only re-elected official setting their sights on the next 4 years in office. Republican Secretary of State Michael Adams received the most votes of any candidate yesterday and defeated Democratic opponent Charles Wheatley. Jeremy Tom spoke with him about this year's voter turnout and his plans for future elections.
Secretary of State Michael Adams says this election day was the smoothest he's overseen since he took office.
I was very pleased. No reports of long lines like we had a year ago.
Adams says that was aided by 260,000 voters who opted to line up early.
I made a point to personally ask both Governor Beshear and Attorney General Cameron to promote early voting among their supporters, and they both took me up on that.
Those efforts to reach across the aisle through his office were also present in his campaign.
I had a bit of a risky strategy by going to Democrats and independents who weren't necessarily voting at the top of the ticket for a Republican.
But Adams was rewarded for it, tallying more votes than any other candidate on the ticket. And his focus now turns towards 2024. Adams has set his sights on securing more funding for county clerks while also making sure it is tied to performance.
We need to pay the counties based on how many voters they have instead of how many precincts they have, because they can artificially inflate the number of precincts and get more money. And then you have disparity in election funding.
And he says polling places across the Commonwealth will have to handle a much higher turnout.
We typically have about 60% turnout in a presidential election. Yesterday we were about 38, we might hit 40. It's just a different animal.
So Adams wants to continue promoting early voting and bring Kentuckians another smooth experience at the polls a year from now.
The whole point of my providing early voting to Kentucky is to give people choices. But it is also helpful to me and to those voters and to all voters, so we don't have 3 days of crickets and then 1 day of big crowds.
Jeremy Toms, WYMT Mountain News.
Republicans won all the down-ballot statewide races. You can still find all the election results on our website and the WYMT News app. Earlier this week, the Public Service Commission announced it would close 2 coal-fired power plants in Louisville, but keep plants in Mercer and Carroll counties open. That brought criticism from Attorney General Daniel Cameron and others. Here's part of a statement released by Kentucky Coal Association President Tucker Davis. He said, quote, "Kentuckians deserve and demand reliable, affordable electricity. Neither natural gas nor renewables like wind and solar will be able to meet even current demand, much less the rapidly increasing demand for electricity makes experts see the occurring over the next few decades." Now, coal must remain an important part of meeting our state's energy needs, end quote. Hollywood's Actors Union reached a tentative deal with studios to end its strike. The contract agreement still must be approved by the union's board and its members, but the union says the strike will end tomorrow. Screenwriters ended their own strike in September. It was the first time both writers and actors were on strike together since 1960. Details of the agreement have not been released. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, a committee meeting at the state capitol looks to resolve problems after several reports of problems at Kentucky's VA nursing homes.
Plus, we are tracking higher rain chances on Thursday, also Friday, timing out those showers after this break.